Stabbed 12 times, paralyzed, always reminded, it doesn't get easier, I got stronger. I'm a walking contradiction with endless possibilities. Emotionally, I'm unstable. Physically, I'm weak. Mentally, I am strong. I am a wounded healer. It doesn't get easier, I got stronger. I'm love. I smell like home. I sound like my mama's prayers. I look like I'm sure. I see beauty in the struggle, grateful. It never got easier, I just got stronger. I'm choosing to be strong. Be a voice for those who have been silenced. Speak on the unspoken like a phoenix, still I rise. It won't be easy, but you will be stronger. I'm here. You are here. We are here. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome back to the Silent Skills Podcast. Today we have a special guest. Remember to join us live every Wednesday, YouTube, The Ranters Union, Facebook, Silent Skills. We talk about various topics ranging domestic violence, trauma, the impacts of it, and everything else that could come underneath of that. So right now I want to introduce you to our special guest, Sanita.
Hi everyone, what an honor it is to be on the show, and thank you for having me.
No problem, no problem. I found you on Instagram. I saw that me and you had like-minded passions when it comes to domestic violence survivors. So Sanita is a business development manager and medical sales, and also a domestic violence survivor, all the way from the UK. And by us talking, she told me that her childhood experiences really impacted her adult relationships and how she has been driven to help other people in similar situations like hers. So I appreciate you for being on the show, and I'm very ready to hear your story. So Sanita, is she also want to help prevent women from falling into that same cycle that so many women fall under? So thank you for speaking out. Thank you for being willing to share your story. And I just want to introduce you, and I want you to tell the crowd whatever you want them to know about you before we begin our interview.
Yeah, so I thank you so much for that introduction, Shehariah, because thank you. I'm on the same path as yourself. I'm from the UK. I was born and bred in England, so quite a way away from yourselves. But during these testing times, we all feel like we're all connected, and I'm on the same. I have the same vision as yourself to help as many women or as many people who have been affected by domestic violence as possible. And I'm on a mission to change this world. I'm on a mission to bring impact and to change people's lives for the better.
Yes, thank you. So I guess I just want to jump right on into it. I know that you witnessed some type of abuse as you were a child, and I just want to start by asking, how old were you when you first started to see, signs of abuse or that toxic relationship between your parents or whoever your guardians were at that time?
Yeah, great question. Because I, from what I realized is, and doing a lot of therapy and going through the process of recovery and healing, a lot has stemmed from childhood, like a massive amount of how I've ended up in toxic relationships as an adult has come from childhood. So to answer your question, how old was I? I was born into an abusive household, to answer your question. So I was pretty much from my earliest memories are of abuse, and up until kind of into adulthood, until I was like 18, 19, I was still within that abusive kind of household where there was just this tension and just all these feelings where I had just normalized everything. So my childhood, from a very, very young age, I witnessed my mum going through physical abuse, and I guess that's the only form of abuse that you can actually see when you're a child is physical abuse. But there was a whole lot more going on than that, like literally a whole lot more behind the scenes that I didn't actually see as a young child. It wasn't until I got a little bit older, till I was in my teens, that I saw, like I saw a lot more of physical, psychological and emotional and economical abuse as well. But that was as I got older, kind of into my teens, that I started realizing these things. So yeah, so hopefully that answers your question.
So basically, you were born into it, and ever since then, you was witnessing up until about 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
During those times that you were witnessing it, how did it make you feel? Did they, that question first, how did that make you feel?
Yeah, so to be honest, as a child, like I grew up as a child, I think there was these elements of being scared. I know there was elements of being scared, because I do remember those times of just being frightened, not knowing what was going to happen. um but I grew up thinking that I came out of the situation unscathed. I grew up thinking I'm okay, I'm normal, I'm good, I'm a nice person, so everything's fine. Like it was just a blip in my childhood, and I'm all recovered. Because I've forgotten all about it. I don't talk about it. I'm fine. It wasn't until I went to therapy and I did some inner child work. And if you don't know what that is, for the audience, inner child work is where they work on your subconscious and take you back to when you was a child and put you back in these situations that were particularly stressful for you. And every single time I went back and did that inner child work, I was scared. I was treading on eggshells. I was nervous. I had this anxiety and I felt helpless. I literally felt helpless, and I didn't know what was going to happen next. And what I realized, and this is quite interesting, as learnt behavior, is every time I went back into these situations, yes, I felt scared. Yes, I felt like I couldn't do anything, like I was helpless, and I felt nervous, and I felt bad because I wanted to help. I wanted to help my mom. I wanted to help my sister, because although abuse was happening to all of us individually, we also witnessed it to each other. And what I would see is my mom would stick her head in the sand. She didn't like confrontation. She still doesn't like confrontation. So she didn't want to confront the perpetrator or her abuser. So she would just almost ignore what was happening. And I would see my older sister would confront the abuser, and I would see she would get punished for it. So as a learned behavior, I learned that if I'm scared, or if I'm helpless and I don't know what's going on, the best thing is to do what mom does and stick my head in the sand, and not, because if I speak out, I will be punished. And I didn't want to be punished as a child, because I could see what was happening, and the punishments that my older sister got for speaking out. So I learned as from a very young age to just bring those feelings inwards and not to deal with them. And so to kind of answer that, there was a lot of being frightened, helplessness, nervousness, treading on eggshells, anxiety, guilt for witnessing what my mom and sisters were going through. So a lot of those things and a lot of learned behavior came out of from the back of that as well. Yeah.
Okay, wow. So, how old was your sister when she started to try to speak out about it? And how old were you?
So I think she was around about 9 or 10, when she kind of found her voice and started speaking back, and trying to reach out. And so she was about 9 or 10. So I was about kind of 7 or 8. But this carried on throughout into kind of our teens. And I remember one
Yeah.
case, she must have been about, I don't know, about 14. Maybe about 13, and I was about 11, and I would see her up against the wall, being almost kind of, you know, a hand on her throat up against the wall, and obviously being in that situation, feeling very helpless. But I would see this is the punishment that you get for speaking out.
So from an early age, like basically your environment told you that being silent was the best way to prevent
Yeah.
being handled in the way that she was being handled. So who would be the one that would be punishing her? Was it your dad or your mom or both?
It was so my mom was pretty innocent in all of this. So the first marriage she went through was an arranged marriage, so she didn't have a choice. It was like
Yeah.
a cultural thing that was forced upon her. And then her next partner was her choice, but he preyed on her, so she was very innocent in all of this. So the perpetrators have always been my biological dad in the first instance, and then it moved on to my mom's partner, who she went on to marry afterwards. So yes, it was always these two men who were, I guess the abusive men or the perpetrators in our lives. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess a sidebar conversation. Do you feel like your culture had a lot to do with why she didn't want to speak out? We have a couple comments I want to go to before you answer that question. I just want to thank the people for tuning in. We have Laura Vale says, good evening. Thank you for tuning in, Miss Ravioli. I think those are some emojis I cannot see, but thank you for tuning in. And Samantha says, good evening, ladies. Hey, thank you for watching. So yes, Sanita, do you feel like your culture, I guess, where you were raised? So I know you live in the UK now. Were you born and raised in the UK? And also your biological father, where were you living at when it happened? And do you feel like your culture, traditions of that time impacted whether or not your mother stayed and spoke out about that?
Absolutely, yeah. You've nailed it on the head, 100%. So
Yeah.
I was fortunate. I was born and bred in the UK, but so was my mum. My mum was born and bred in the UK, but that doesn't mean to say that the culture and the traditions don't follow you. So my granddad was born in India, and so there was a lot of traditions and culture that kind of followed for my mom, even though she was first generation within the UK. So because when my mom initially left my dad, and there was a lot of evidence, you know, this guy actually went to prison for half the stuff he'd done, you know, breaking and entering, attempted murder, all of this stuff happened. It was, you know, it wasn't just a beating. It was
Right.
horrific. And my granddad, and I have no hard feelings towards any of my family members. I love them to bits, but because of that culture, because of this, oh my God, this shame, the embarrassment, like the family couldn't handle it, and actually told my mom to go back to this man after everything that he'd done. Like, I haven't even gone into the half of the details of what happened, but they told my mom to go back to him. So my mom didn't even have family support, but it took her 13 years to finally leave him. And my dad, I believe my dad was born in the UK, like my biological dad. I believe he was born in the UK as well. But again, there was very strong traditions there, and the culture, how the culture plays a part in the Asian community. The culture enforces male entitlement. It absolutely enforces male entitlement. So in the Indian culture, how it works is the woman is just supposed to be at the beck and call of the man. So she's supposed to be there to cook, clean, all of this. If you so much as ask the man to help with any chores or anything like that, is just unheard of. Is absolutely unheard of. So it just enforces and cements this male entitlement that the man can do what he wants. And if women speak out, oh no, if we speak out, that's bringing shame on the family, or shame on the family name, or embarrassment on the family name. So it prevents women, Asian women, from speaking out. And also you have the element of the family not wanting divorce being shameful, so they would almost try and get the woman, the abused woman, to go back to the perpetrator, just to save embarrassment for the family name. So yeah.
Wow. So that's perpetuating that cycle because they don't want to be shamed. You don't want to look at it as, oh, the bad one. And so you stay for the sake of peace.
Yeah. And it's a brutal circle, because my mom, in her situation, she did walk away, and she chose not to listen to her parents, which I think was the best decision.
Yeah.
But because she didn't have then those family support or the family ties, she ended up being preyed upon and ended up in another abusive relationship, and then felt like that one she had to make work because she'd gone against her family, which was obviously very detrimental, because she ended up being in another abusive relationship for so long, but felt like she couldn't leave because she'd already gone against her family once.
Okay. We have a comment from the Renters Union. They say, sounds like some families in the USA too. A lot of families hide trauma due to embarrassment.
Yeah.
That's definitely a fact. That's definitely a fact. Like you can have personally, I know some, and then also stuff that I've heard, like a lot of families are just keep things on a hush. They still invite them to family functions. When I feel like a lot of stuff should be put to the forefront. These people should be put on blast. They should be exposed to prevent other women, men, children from going through similar situations. So that definitely is a thing that happens all over.
Absolutely. And can I just say, there is no reason for anyone to be ashamed or embarrassed, because you have done nothing wrong. If you've been a victim of domestic violence, and domestic violence is a huge umbrella term for psychological, emotional, everything, you have done nothing wrong, and you have absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. And you wear it like a badge. Wear it like a badge, because you have survived.
Yeah.
Because 2 women a week die of domestic violence. So you be proud. If you walked away from this, be proud.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Like survivors. I want to go back to the comments. The Renters Union says about the arranged marriages. Do those still happen during these times? Like, has that always been a thing? Is that still a thing? Or has it like changed over the years?
It has changed over the years. It's not completely changed. Now in India, it's very much still happening. Probably not to the same extent, but it is still very, very, very much still happening in India. Now in the UK, it's hard to say, because although families are now becoming more modernized, like for me, my marriage was not arranged at all. And my family, my mom would never ever put that on me after what she went through. And my wider family, aunts and uncles, none of us cousins, none of us in our generation have had an arranged marriage, because my family's very westernized. So they're like, no, we're not going to do this. So I'm talking kind of my mom's generation level. But I know in other kind of families within the UK, there are pockets of it. But it has changed in the sense that before, like my mom never even saw a single picture of my dad before she married him. She'd never even met him. Whereas now it's loosened up slightly, where the girl does meet the guy maybe once or twice, and then they get married, and she does kind of have a say, but she gets a choice of so many men. Whereas before, it was more of a case of, you're marrying this guy, you don't really have a choice. See you later. This is the date of your wedding, kind of thing. So times have changed, but it's still very much the norm. Yeah, unless the family's more westernized, like with kind of modern families, you don't really see it happening anymore.
Okay, so in your opinion, I guess in terms of domestic abuse or otherwise, do you feel like arranged marriages are better than non-arranged marriages? Like, do you feel like one is better than the other?
I believe personally that if a girl can spend a week picking a dress out for an event that's going to last one day, then a girl can spend as much time as she wants picking out the right man that is going to be with her for the rest of her life. That is personally the way I see it. So I think it should always be the woman's choice, always. And marriage is not just, I think back in the day in India, marriage was just seen as a way to get rid of the girls from the house, because girls were seen as an embarrassment or inferior to men. Whereas I see marriage, and this is just my personal opinion, as two people who love each other coming together, wanting to spend the rest of their life together. But how can you know that you want to spend the rest of your life with someone who it's arranged? But then in some situations, I've seen arranged marriages work and it flourish amazingly, beautifully. Yeah, and then in some cases, I've seen it be absolutely horrific, where there's been domestic violence involved. So, yeah, it's hard to say. But me personally, I would want to choose who I'm going to spend the rest of my life with.
Okay. I could definitely understand that. I think we had a few more comments that I missed last go round. Okay. Chanel Williams said, I see the pros of both. Okay. Please explain a little bit more about that. We have another comment from Kofi. Says, hey, thank you for watching, Kofi. Just one love. I can't see those emojis. But thank you for watching. Just one. And Mysterious Be Easy says, what up, y'all? Thank you for tuning in. Feel free to give your input. We have a comment from Louisville. He says, I've seen how East Indian men treat their women. It's not okay, and it's also not okay to just stay with someone, just not to bring shame to your family.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, but there's a lot more going on than just a shame. Because imagine if your parents turn their back on you, where else have you got to go? If you've got 3 children in tow, where have you got to go? And I remember my mum and us as kids, me and my 2 sisters, being bounced around from house to house to house, and sleeping on sofas, being in temporary accommodation, because my mum had gone against her parents' wishes, and that meant she had nowhere to go, literally. So yeah, there's a lot to think about. It's not just as easy as picking up and leaving. It's about, where am I taking my children? What am I doing with my life?
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Also, finances. Like you said, where are you taking your children? Will they have a place to stay? Will they be able to be enrolled in school? Will they still be able to have, food in their bellies, bills being paid? Those are always something to think about when it's time to leave those situations. And I just feel like, cultures like where your parents came from, and, by route you, that can add an extra layer, to prevent people from wanting to leave.
Absolutely, yeah. The economic abuse, massive. That's the whole reason why men do economic abuse, is to stop them from leaving. But then there's also the fear factor, as if the man will come back. Because my mum left him. Well, he had to leave the house, and then he came back and broke and entered and attempted murder for us as well. So there's that fear of, am I doing the right thing as well? Because what are going to be the repercussions? So it's easy for us to say, yeah, just walk away. If he's doing you wrong, walk away. But there's a lot of factors in there. It's very complicated. And remember, these men are very intelligent. Any abuser, whether they're male or female, very intelligent. And they will play the games to make you think it's your fault. They will play those games to make you think it's your fault. So, yeah, you don't always realize that the perpetrator is the perpetrator. Sometimes you think it's you, because of the mind games, the clouding, the judgment, the gaslighting, everything that happens. So it's very complex.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. We have another comment from Janelle. She says, the family support and unity being behind an arrangement can be a good thing. We as women can pick wrong on our own.
And she also
Yeah,
says two families meeting, vetting, and agreeing is teamwork.
absolutely. And Janelle, well done. Very good point. Because I'm going to talk about this a bit later, but I'm currently writing a book on the psychology behind an abusive man and the psychology of the abused woman. And a lot of the things that I talk about is we every woman wants to change the man. Yeah, every single woman wants to change the man. They don't want to leave the man. They can't accept that. I couldn't accept that. I've gone through this as well, remember. So I would do anything to change him, to make him not abusive. And there's four things that you need. There's four things that you need in order to change the man. But even if you have these four things, doesn't necessarily mean to say that he's going to make long lasting changes. And what Janelle said, you need his family to have your back. You need your family, as in the abuse. So you need the perpetrator's family to have the victim's back. And then you need the victim's family to have her back as well. And then you need the abuser to be not so self-centered. So it depends on where he is on that scale.
Yeah.
And he has to be willing to change. So if he's not any of those things, it's not going to happen. It's literally not going to happen. So the family is a crucial part in all of this. So if the family advocate his behavior, no chance, no chance, because then he has no reason to change.
I agree with that completely. I agree with that completely. We have another comment from Miss Ravioli. She says, many of my family members were and still remain ashamed of my concerns of child sexual abuse and incest. I initially held a ton of shame. Now I am ashamed of their inability to face truths. Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that you can even, share that. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I feel
Yeah.
like as we mature, as we evolve, we can really see our elders, our parents, our other family members for what they truly are. A lot of people are afraid to admit what's going on. And a lot of
Yeah.
people know what's going on. They just aren't ready to really cope with that. They aren't really ready to deal with those things. I've seen that countless amount of times. And it can leave you feeling like the black sheep of the family. It can leave you feeling like you don't belong. It can also give you that extra push to want to break that cycle for when you want to start your own family and being open enough with them, telling them about the things that you have been through as a child, the things that you have seen from a child up until this point, and it helps them to really, I feel like it helps them to make better decisions when you can be openly honest and transparent about everything. So thank you for that, Ms. Ravioli. We had another comment.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Miss Ravioli. I mean, just you speaking out and talking, that is amazing because not many
Yeah,
people would do that. And yeah, intergenerational trauma. So what it is intergenerational trauma and
yeah,
learned behavior, and it's almost like a hot potato. Your ancestors are passing it on and passing it on because they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with it. So you are breaking the cycle, Miss Ravioli. I don't think you realize you are breaking the cycle because you are like, no, this stops with me. I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to talk about this. So my future children don't have to go through this. So amazing, amazing. Well done.
yeah. I love Miss Ravioli, man. Okay, Sanita. So you were saying that up until your late teens, you were still witnessing that abuse. So when did you first begin getting into relationships? What age did you start dating?
Yeah, so I had my first boyfriend when I was 19 and he was abusive and I had no idea. I'm 31 now, by the way. And so, God, it was 12 years ago. And I had no idea he was abusive until this year, until I started researching abusive men and the psychology behind abusive men, that I realized that that first boyfriend had set the scene. He'd set the scene for my relationships to come, but I had no idea because me 19, I had no other relationships. I don't know anything normal. I've never seen a healthy relationship. All I've seen is the two abusive men that my mom was partnered with, and then all I saw was that first relationship that I had, and he was a narcissistic personality disorder he had, but the vulnerable category of it. So what that means is he was very clingy, extreme jealousy, very possessive, but this is all I knew. So he set the bar. So I thought this jealousy was normal. I thought him controlling, giving me, like, there's a lot of technological abuse, like he would track me, rock up outside the bar that I would be in, and I'd have 30 or 40 missed calls on 30 missed calls on a phone, like if I didn't answer my phone. And then if I didn't answer it and I'd find these missed calls, he would come find me wherever I was. Yeah, it was insane. So that was my first relationship. And I was in that relationship for 4 years because I just thought it was normal. I didn't know anything else. I just thought this is how relationships are. And then moving on from that, I left that relationship and realized this just wasn't working, and ended up being single for a while, ended up working on me, and I was nearly there, very nearly there. And then I met somebody else. And what happened was what abusive men do, and I'm sure you all know, they scoop you up. They literally envelop you in this fake love and like emotion. They read you like a book. They see exactly what you want. They see exactly that you're craving attention, you're craving love, or you're craving certain things that you may not have ever had before because of your abandonment or rejection issues from your childhood, like I had. So they read you like a book. They see what you need, and they give you it times 10. So then you see that and you're like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. He's Prince Charming. He's my dream man. He's this, he's that, he's this. And this is what happens. So we get sucked into this. We get sucked into it. And then boom, they drop you. They literally drop. When they're ready to drop you, they drop you. And then before you know it, you are in this cycle of abuse again. So with my ex-husband, because I married the guy, I witnessed physical abuse, psychological, emotional, and sexual abuse. And I didn't even know. I didn't even know that any of it was abuse. Like, I really didn't, because that was all I ever knew. I remember that first boyfriend had paved the way for me by showing me all this extreme jealousy. So I just thought this was normal when my husband was then being extremely jealous for no reason. So I just thought it was all normal. And so I saw all these. So just to kind of give you some examples, the emotional abuse, I would be tortured. So literally silent treatment for weeks on end, like emotionally shut me out, literally. And I would not be able to call, text, or even we lived in the same house. If I try and approach him, he would then if I just try and give him a hug to be like, come on, snap out of it, he would push me so hard. He was a big guy. I'm only like 5'4". And he would push me and I would fall to the ground. But that's physical abuse. And then he would kick me, grab me, all the subtleties of physical abuse. And then the psychological was just the mind games. He was very good at this, the mind games, controlling my thoughts, my opinions. I actually he brainwashed me into not believing me. So I didn't even know if I was feeling something. He would tell me my feeling was wrong. How can somebody tell you your feelings are wrong? Your feelings are your feelings. Your feelings are you. Nobody can tell you how you feel. So anyway, he would emotionally manipulate me, psychologically play a lot of games with me. And there was a lot of sexual abuse as well. There's a few things: the sex pest, the sleep rapist. I had new names for him after I left him. So yeah, so lots of stuff that happened there, just in adult relationships. But again, I never knew any of it was there because it was all normalized from my childhood. So it's only until I kind of left and then went to therapy, I started to undo the damage from not just the relationships, but from my childhood. So that is key, is undoing the stuff from childhood as well.
Yeah. Wow. So with this first guy, you said you were with him for 4 years, the first person you were dating. What made you stay so long, and then what made you leave?
I think I was very young. And to be honest, I thought I was the abusive one because of the way they portray it, that you're the and to be fair, I was very young, very naive, and very gullible, and also I probably wasn't innocent myself, if I'm going to be honest, because the way that we deal with anger in our family is we shout and scream. so I did think, oh, did I aggravate the guy? Did I say some things I shouldn't have said as well? So I did think that maybe I was probably the guilty one as well in the relationship. But what made me leave is I actually got very ill. And I honestly believe to this day was because of the stress of the relationship, because it will have a toll on your body. And I got so ill that I had a very near-death experience. And then I ended up being on oxygen and in a wheelchair and on lifelong medication. And it kind of that made me realize that, hang on a second, life is way too short. So when that happened, I was like, I gotta go. This guy is not making me happy. I gotta go. So it was literally a few kind of weeks. Once I'd kind of got back on my feet and I was able to walk again, I then basically left him. So it was having that kind of experience with my health to say, come on, life is too short. And that's when I left.
Wow. I'm glad that you are still here. That had to have been very traumatic. And I definitely do know that, the things that we can go through mentally can have an impact physically, especially in terms of stress, heart problems, and things that a lot of people couldn't even imagine,
Yeah. And it does.
So
It really does. And then with my ex-husband, again, I was having, your body will tell you before your mind does. So my body was telling me I wasn't very well. And what made me leave with him is, I started seeing through his bullshit. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to just swear.
You're good. You're good.
But yeah, so I started seeing, because what they normally do is they try and gauge a reaction out of you. They're playing you like a puppet master, and they want you to react. So as soon as you react, they can blame everything on you, or they have an opportunity to explode. And so I stopped reacting. So he was just exploding without any reason to explode. And that's when I was like, hang on a second. You was baiting me into an argument, and because I didn't respond, you were going to blow anyway. And that's when I realized that I had no part to play in this. He was just making out that he was crazy, but he was just abusive. And that's when I saw it, I was like, okay. And then I saw it again and again, and I was like, okay, we're done. And that's when I left.
Yeah, man, that's a beautiful moment when you can finally see through the facade. You can see through the blow-ups. You can see through the sweet words. Like that's a level of growth that you get to, and it's a beautiful thing when you can truly see it. And it helps to push you to that next level of being done with it, wiping your hands of it, and being better for the next person that you are to meet.
Yeah, but there's a lot of work to be done. And I talk about this in my book. There's a lot of work to be done on you before you can meet that person. Because there's somebody else waiting for you. Don't get me wrong. There's somebody out there for everyone. But you have to go through the journey of what is your worth? Do you know your worth? Because you clearly don't if you're in this abusive relationship. Because I didn't know my worth. And so this is part of my journey now, is now that I've discovered my worth, is helping all women find their worth as well.
Yeah. Okay. I want to get into the comments. We have people that have been tuning in. Samantha says, many blessings.
Thank you, Samantha.
Eki says, blessings to you. Blessings right back to you. Thank you for watching. Williamson says, hello and Merry Christmas, ladies. Happy holidays to you. Thank you for tuning in. Ms. Ravioli says, unfortunately, the gravest concerns are centered around my offspring and not my own early pasta life. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have children, Ms. Ravioli? Or are you do you plan on having children, Ms. Ravioli? Okay. Okay, so yeah, you left that situation. It took for a near-death experience for you to actually open your eyes, and I'm so glad that you reached that point. So tell me, how long was it after you left that 4-year relationship, and the next person that you dated, started talking to, was the one that you was to marry? After that, how much time passed?
I think about 5 years. It's about 5 years. And I'd done a lot of work on myself, but I hadn't gone to therapy. And I think that's the key thing, is going to a specialist therapist in this area. So I'd done a lot of work on, gym and me and, working out, and I threw myself into the gym and threw myself into healthy eating. So I'd worked on me on several different levels, but not quite deep enough with the therapy and the mental health. So the whole self-worth, I was probably like 70% of the way there. I'd brought myself from this 10% up to 70, but I wasn't there fully. And that difference of not being there fully is what ended up with me being sucked into this abusive relationship again. So you have to get yourself in a place where you know your worth, you know what you deserve. And a lot of the time we have to undo, and this is what I'm working on right now, is undoing the stuff from childhood. And it's very easy just to go back into the same abusive relationship again. And the reason being is because our subconscious, because all we know, if you've been someone like me, where all you know is abuse, and you see a non-abusive man come into your life, they're not going to scoop you up into that and envelop you in all that love and affection. So it's kind of like, well, this is not what I know. They're not giving me the attention and the love that I need. So what happens is, to the abused woman, is when you crave that love and attention, because you're still not healed from childhood wounds. So when you crave that love and attention, you're just going to end up attracting these abusive men even more, and end up being rejected and abandoned even more. So it's about, when you leave that relationship, to work on yourself, but not just from a gym and a healthy eating and getting job, career, house back on track. That stuff is great, don't get me wrong, but it's an element of mental health. So where are you at with your psychology? Have you dealt with your abandonment, rejection issues from childhood? Because I know I certainly haven't. I'm getting there, but I'm not 100%. So until I work on that fully, can I move on, with an intimate relationship or romantic relationship again? That's just my personal view, by the way.
Yeah, thank you for that. It does take that internal growth. Like, a lot of people can give you advice, can tell you what you should or shouldn't be doing, and you could even know what you should or shouldn't be doing. But it does take something from the inside to really give you that push to wanna make that step. So with your husband, how long were you with your husband?
Not long at all. I actually left Well, the funny thing is, I left him after 10 months of marriage, and technically we're actually still married because we're going through a divorce.
Yeah.
So I left him after 10 months of marriage, and I noticed as soon as we got, well, I noticed pretty much as soon as we got back from honeymoon. I literally, because just one thing to highlight here is the greater the level of commitment in the relationship is, the greater the proportion of abuse. So as soon as that marriage happened, he was like, we're on another level. So he changed almost overnight. There was obviously some signs before, but nothing that I saw was major enough to not get married to him, if that makes sense. So just little things that I found. But as soon as the marriage happened, overnight. So 2 weeks after honeymoon, I was like, this is wrong. You know, I wrote him a 5-page letter and was like, you need to sort your S out. Literally is what I said to him. And I left for the weekend, told him to sort his stuff out. And he obviously didn't. You know, these men don't change. It's a very, very, very small proportion of these men that change. So just to get that out there. So yeah, 10 months of marriage was all it was. And I'm so glad. So I feel like, although I've seen abuse for all of my life, and although I was in an abusive relationship before, I would never say anyone who's gone through abuse is lucky, but I do feel in a little bit, in a way, lucky, because I didn't get as emotionally damaged as some people do that have been in marriages for years on end, because they almost diminish to nothing, that to the point where they have no rights. Whereas I feel like I grew stronger in the relationship, and I always fought my case with him as well. So I feel like I was in a way lucky because I got out quick.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. So do you have children?
No, I don't. And I feel so blessed to not have children with this abusive man. So no, I don't have children. But what I would say on that front, sorry, I forgot the lady's name. But she mentioned about children. Sorry, I think it was Miss Varioli. Yeah. Yeah, children are so fragile. Like, I don't have children, but I've spoken a little bit about this in my book, because I know a lot of women do have children, and literally they are so fragile. So wherever they see, so if your children have seen you be abused, you need to make sure they get to therapy. You need to undo that work now, because the last thing you want is how men become abusive is learned behavior. So if they've seen them, my ex-husband saw his mom get abused. You see the pattern that occurs. So if your children have seen you get abused, they need to go to therapy. They need that help, because you don't want them to end up on the same path. You need to break the cycle, is what I would say. So yes, if you're worried about your offspring, get them the help that they need. Absolutely.
Okay. Do you plan on having children?
Yeah, when I find a suitable partner, yes. I mean, I would like to get married again, because I feel like my marriage was just a show, because that's what it is to these narcissistic men. It's just a show. So I was just something to make him look good. The whole wedding was just a facade. And so I married a man that I loved, but there was no love returned. So for me, I feel like I would like to get married again and have children, but obviously with someone non-abusive, once I've worked on myself. Yeah.
Okay, that is a good thing that you have realized that a lot of people just really want to jump into that next relationship just to feel that love without really sorting through their own things, but also filling that person out completely.
Yeah, and I just say, yeah, I agree, and that's the easiest thing to do, is to jump into the next relationship. Honestly, it's the easiest thing to do, but the harder thing to do and the right thing to do is to work on you, so you can be a better person, so you can be a better mom, so you can be a better partner in the future. Because what I wish for every single woman is to work on her so she can be happy and not magnetize these abusive men. Because I just want you to be happy and to have the love that you deserve. Which is why I would say work on yourself.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I want to go into the comments. We have a few of them. We have one from Eki, says, definitely a cycle. Children are very precious. My 2 past fiancés were verbally abusive. I'm thankful we did not have children. Everything happens for a reason.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Children do create that extra level of attachment.
Yeah.
When it comes to some people. Janelle says they all seem to have either low-key passive abusive tendencies or just blatant tendencies. We have to raise our sons to be better and hold them accountable.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But then also, women as well. Ranter Jr. says we have to raise our daughters right too. Yeah, like I was just saying, it's not just a one gender thing. It isn't just a men on women type thing. Because a lot of women can be just as abusive. I just feel like when women do it, it's in a different type of way. I don't feel like women are as physical. They can be physical. Some of them can be more physical, but I feel like on average, they do it in different ways. Whether that's, emotions or using children to take advantage of somebody and things like that. Women can be just as toxic.
Yeah. And I agree with that. And I also think there was actually some studies done on men who were abused and women who were abused. And I do feel like it's very different because when you ask the women, they are scared for their lives. Whereas if you ask the men, it's more of a embarrassment and it's more of a rather than a scared for their lives. So they might be a little bit scared, they might be a little bit embarrassed. But when you look at the studies, the data is heavily weighted on the women actually being scared for their lives and the men not being scared for their lives, but having other factors in place. So that tells me that it's much more impactful on women being abused than men. But obviously, I can only speak for me because I've only ever seen 4 abusive men in my life and no abusive women. So I'm obviously going to be biased.
I definitely agree with that. I think on the last episode, I was talking about a study. I think it was done by NIH, and it was saying the types of abuse that each gender endured. And they did, I forgot the scale. Was it the battered woman scale? Something like that. It was some scale that they used to try to, identify how fearful men were after abusive and how likely they were to commit abuse after they had been abused, and the same thing for women. And they recognized that although, men and women can be abused, it was the men that would go on to do more lethal, more violent types of abuse, and it would be the women that would kind of take on those traits and, act certain ways because of what she had been through. If that makes sense. A lot of times the men are, murder their wives, children, or commit suicide, kill their families, kill themselves. A lot of times when it comes to the women, it's just in other ways.
Exactly. And 2 women die at the hands of a perpetrator every week. So that just says it all. And the statistics, actually, this is again in my book as well. The statistics show that when a woman is abused, she's more likely to be the victim of abuse as an adult. Whereas when a male child is abused, he's more likely to become the abuser as an adult. So that's statistics. That's statistics based on the UK though. But yeah, they're official statistics. So it's just interesting to see.
I do feel like that can be generalized to America and other countries as well. Like I can definitely see that. I see it all the time. Definitely see it all the time. Okay, I want to go into the comments. The wacky word of OTV says, in the African American community, there's a culture where criminals/thugs are seen as attractive. It's seen as attractive in the eyes of a lot of females. One way for females in that community to avoid abusive men is to abandon that thug love culture.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so about that comment, I do know that a lot of African American women are attracted to that bad boy, that thug life, gangster lifestyle. But at the same time, there are people who don't identify as that and are still just as abusive. There are people that are not from the streets or claim to be that identity. Like you have doctors, lawyers, teachers, rural areas, suburban areas, and they are, doing the same things. So
Yeah.
it's not just those men that are committing these acts, but I do agree that, yeah, a lot of those men follow behind those traits, the ones who identify as thugs, gangsters, and a lot of people like those type of men. A lot of African American women are attracted to that, but those aren't the only type of men who commit these abusive acts.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. And I think abusive men can be anyone. And
Right.
sometimes there are these stereotypes in our head, but you're right. They are the people that you're least likely to think, because remember, their reputation is everything to them. So you're never going to know who an abusive man is from just looking, to the public, because it's very hidden. It's all very kind of within. But what I would say is, on that note, society does not help. Society actually cements abusive men becoming abusive men by, first of all, law enforcement and the women's legal rights. That it has to get to the point where we are physically beaten, where we can call for help. Before that point, we can't call for help. Like, I know that's the case in the UK, but I just feel like the system is designed to make us fail. Like, there's a law on coercive control in the UK, but the amount of evidence that you need in order to show that it's happened, it's very unlikely to ever convict anyone of coercive control. Because obviously there was coercive control in my relationship. Do I have enough evidence? Not what stands up in a court of law, because I didn't go to the doctors, because I didn't go to the hospital, because I didn't call the police on my ex-husband. I don't have any evidence that stands up in a court of law. So I think society and the system is what needs to change. And I mean, I've seen it in cases where the woman has ended up being incarcerated for defending herself.
Right.
And so I just feel like the society and the system is what needs to change. And if we work on our daughters, or our future daughters, to know what their worth is, to know what they're capable of achieving, to know what they deserve, and to work on these childhood abandonment, rejection issues, then our daughters will know not to go for these men.
Mm-hmm. To that, one of the points that you were just making, I do feel like the legal system fails a lot of domestic violence victims and survivors. Like when I was going through my own situation, trying to get a court protection order, they said, okay, show me the pictures, videos, text messages that you have. And it's like a lot of these things were verbal, things that I seen. You can't necessarily always take a picture in that moment. He's doing this. It's just unrealistic. And I feel like a lot of people are failed because the court of law doesn't take it as serious if you don't have that evidence. And a lot of times I feel like the evidence should just be what you're saying, your own account. But I do know that a lot of people lie just to get people, caught up, bagged. A lot of people do lie. So I understand that, but it's like at the same time, a lot of people do tell the truth and are honest about these situations in the court of law and say, well, if you don't have pictures, text, videos, this, and that. Like one of the person asked me, well, did he threaten your life? I said that my abuser had said, he said, I would do this every time. I don't care who you're going to get. You could go and tell anybody. And I'm like, to me, I feel like that's a threat. That's saying that I will do this. And if you tell anybody, I would do it again, or I would do something to them. But to the court of law, it say, if he didn't actually say, I will come back and kill you, I will come back and do this, they didn't see it as a threat. That wasn't a factor that would make them want to give me that protection order.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. And I think actually it's messed up in the UK. I don't know how I don't know the US legal system, but in the UK, just to follow on from that, you can actually, if you're not married to the man, or if you're not in a intimate relationship with the man, there's more things that you can get a stranger prosecuted for than you can your own husband, because you're in that relationship. It actually the system fails you. Like, so for harassment and stalking and all of those things, it actually plays in favor if it's a stranger on the street. Where when it's your husband, the system doesn't play to your favor, which is just stupid. So yeah, the system fails on so many levels, and I think the biggest part is therapy, that mental health for these women that have been emotionally, psychologically damaged on so many levels. And I just think that therapy is massive. Therapy is what's needed 100%.
I agree with that. Therapy helped me a lot. At first, I was skeptic about it. I felt like I don't know what I was really thinking, but I was just skeptic. I wasn't ready. I didn't know if it would hurt more than it would help. I didn't know if I was ready to face certain things. But after going through it and going through it for some years now, like even through COVID, like I miss my therapist now. I can't see her face to face. They got the virtual thing going on, but it's nothing like being in that environment, away from your home environment, to really work on those things. Therapy helps a lot. I do feel like more people should go and seek it. I want to go into the comments. The wacky word of OTV says, Shehariah, let me correct myself. Abusers are criminals, but what I meant is that I agree with you when you said that not all abusers come from the streets. Right. The Ranter Jr. says, my godmother's brother was killed by his lady. Not comparing, but it happens. Also, some women get men killed. Just saying, that's a valid point. Like, a lot of women don't actually do that act themselves, but they do call hitmen, put money on people's heads to get that happen. That's true. That is a thing. That is a thing, Ranter Jr. Yeah. The Wacky World says, I agree. There are people who are not criminals who are also abusive.
Yeah, and yeah, I totally agree there. Can I just say, my ex-husband, he was, during the pandemic, at the beginning in March, April, he was a pillar of the community. He was giving his possessions to children. He was being a volunteer, trying to be a volunteer for the healthcare system. So would anybody from the outside looking in think he was abusive?
No.
Hell no. Do you think they believed me when I said he was? Hell no. Mm. Did you get what I'm saying? So you never know what's happening behind closed doors. And often it's the times where people thought we had this amazing relationship. We had this amazing house, all of this stuff. So it's often the people that you think are having those amazing relationships that are often the ones that might not be. Right. They just get the impression. Like, I put the mask on too. He had a mask. As soon as we got home, mask comes off. He was a different guy. But I had that mask too, because otherwise people would have known. But I put the mask on too, so people wouldn't know. Like, we do it as well as women. We don't want everybody to know that we're in this shit, we're in this situation. But it happens. And so we put on a mask and we put on a facade too. But now I've just learned to be my authentic self and to just be me. So whatever happens, I can just speak freely.
Yes. That is a good thing that you have gotten to that point, because a lot of women do put that mask up as well because of embarrassment, because of shame, or because of, them running to their friends or parents a certain amount of times, and their parents and friends are like, well, I done told you this. If you don't leave, I don't got anything else for you. Don't come back to me. And so after a while, they just keep that in. A lot of people stay for their own reasons. There's no judgment coming from me, because I do understand that there are very real and valid reasons as to why women stay. Fear being one of them. Fear being a very valid reason in itself, financial reason, any other reasons that a person, feels personally. That mask works both ways. Back to the comments. Samantha says, even women make those acts as well. They can be most intelligent, pretty women, but really she can be an ugly soul. Yes. And I feel like a lot of women get away with certain things because of how beautiful they are. Like I've had women say, oh, she fine, she's this and that, attitude, toxic, or she does this, throws my phone, this and that, but she's pretty.
Yeah. And yeah, I just want to say, I know a lot of my experiences when I refer to the abuser, I refer to it being a man and the victim being a woman, but I totally acknowledge that the roles can reverse as well, 100%. But I know I can only talk about my experiences.
Right.
So it's not that I'm being biased in any way. It's just that, and I've heard lots of stories, of women being abusive as well. All I can talk about is my experiences. So yeah, it can happen the other way, and the women can use it to their advantage, being female. So yeah, I get that.
Okay, we have a good question from the Renters Union that says, is staying enabling the abuser?
Yeah. So what happens is, let's say, for example, you leave for a few days, because I did this several times. You leave for a few days, you go to your mom's or you go to family, you go to friends, and then you come back. Every time you come back, it boosts the abuser's ego, literally. So it's enabling the abuser to step up the level of abuse every single time, because what that's saying to them is that because what they're looking for is whether the victim can live without them.
Yeah.
So you going for a few days, coming back, that said, she can't live without me. That's what he's thinking. And then you go again and you come back. The more times you do it, the more you're strengthening the abusive man. So what you need to do is, if you want to bring about change, or if you want to really think about stuff, you need to go for a prolonged period of time. I'm talking like a month without any contact. That's really going to make him think, oh, because when he starts thinking she's becoming independent, she can live without me, that's when he's going to get scared. And that's when he'll either go to another level of abuse, because he's clinging, he's clutching onto whatever he can, or he will come out with a vulnerable side saying, oh, I'm sorry, come back, or whatever. But yes, staying with them is 100% enabling them. Even if you just don't try and leave, even if you just stay in the relationship and don't even attempt to leave, it tells them that it's okay. Because in a way, the woman is condoning. In a way, the woman is accepting the behavior. She's saying, it's okay for you to treat me like this. I'm not going anywhere. So that's what we really need to work on, is why does the woman feel like she deserves to be treated in such a way? Does she know her worth? So it all comes back to self-worth, and working on those deep core beliefs for the woman.
Self-worth is a big part of that.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with that. And I think the stats say that it takes a woman, I think 4 to 7 times or 6 to 7 times to leave before she actually leaves for good, meaning she leaves, come back, or I don't know stats for, vice versa with men, but a lot of men, they come and apologize, get flowers, sweet talk their way back in, and then she ends up going back. And then a lot of times it takes a few times before that woman leaves for good. Then also I want to bring to the attention of everybody that when a woman is ready to leave and has made a decision for good, or has left for good, is the most lethal time for that person. That is the most lethal time for that person. That is the deadliest time for a victim, because domestic abuse is based on power and control.
Yeah.
When that abuser realizes that they no longer have power and control, they will do anything in their power to scrape, to try to get that manipulation and control back over you, whether that's children, finances, attacking your mental, emotional health, your self-esteem, saying that nobody else will want you. Like the reasons are so, the list is long. The list is long with how many ways that they would try to keep you into that cycle to make you feel like you're better off with me. You need to
Yeah.
be with me, or I will do this if you leave.
Yeah.
That's what happened in my situation. I had left for good. I had tried to leave, I believe, like 2 times or maybe 1 time before the final time, and he knew that I was done for good. Like you say, it was a prolonged period. In our case, that was a whole week. I had stopped responding to his texts, his calls, his social media posts that he was making about me. Just, all of these things. I had just stopped. I had just stopped. Got that final protection order, and then that's when he attempted to take my life. After a week of me doing that, he tried to take my life, because he had known that I was done for good. He knew that he no longer had the power or control to keep me back coming into that cycle, and I nearly lost my life behind that. I thank God that I'm still here. Uh, I do know that I have a purpose for still being here, but yeah, it's like, when people do finally decide to leave. And I gotta get myself out of that habit of always saying women. I don't mean that only women go through this. It's just it's ingrained in my head, because of society. Even I be looking up articles for this podcast, and a lot of people automatically say, the female is the victim. It's just like so a part of everything. I just think that's also a part of, a lot of men not speaking up about it. It's just the statistics are skewed when it comes to domestic violence and genders.
Yeah. But it is. And can I just say, little clap for you, because how amazing are you? Like literally for just coming out the other end, because women can crumble. We can crumble, being so psychologically damaged, but you pulled yourself back together. You dragged yourself through therapy, even though you knew you didn't want to do it, but you still did it. You still did it. And look at you now. Look how well you are doing now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just want to show a bit of appreciation for you, because you're doing amazing. You've done an amazing job. And look what you're pulling off today. You've got me from the UK talking to you at 2 a.m. in the morning. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying?
Shout out to you.
Look what you are doing. Like, look what you have achieved. But like, I wouldn't do this for most people. But for you, I'll do this. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man, thank you. That makes me feel special. And also shout out to you, because I know it is late over there in the UK. So I really appreciate you being here. Thank you for seeing me. I appreciate me seeing you and being able to have a chance to connect with you. Thank you. I started my movement, a nonprofit called Silence Kills, and it's what I live. It's a part of my life, and so I'm just trying to bring a part of my life to the people. So I appreciate you for saying that. I appreciate you for being here. And I want to get to the rest of the comments before we start to wrap up, because I know it's late over there. Okay, so we have a comment from Mills Lane. Says we have given ending racism enough time. Ending domestic violence is an attainable goal for the world to work on. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with
100%. 100%.
Mm-hmm. Eki says, do you think an abuser can change, or is it always going to be a part of who they are? I feel like I feel like it's possible, but I don't know the likelihood of that happening, because so many people, it's so ingrained to them in them after a certain amount of months, years, and even through their childhood. It really takes a lot of work to break down that psyche that they have developed. So it's possible, but only if they put in that hard work that can sometimes take years, decades.
Yeah.
Then, but
I agree. And what I would say is, it's a laborious and rigorous process. Remember, it's taken years of building up these deep core attitudes and beliefs. So to undo that, imagine everything that you thought was wrong, and we had to rewire your brain. That is not going to happen overnight. That will take years. And what will happen is, even that everything that's happened for years, in the back of the mind, the abuser knows they've abused you in the past.
Mm-hmm.
They know that. So they know they can do it again. And what will happen is every time they're under pressure, whether that be a work pressure or relationship pressure or kids making noise or pressure, they will relapse. They will relapse and relapse over and over again. And what happens is over time, any change that has been done just disintegrates slowly, and they end up just going back to normal. So it can be done, but it's a very, very, very small percentage. So I would say, don't get your hopes up. Just go focus on your life. Don't get your hopes up. Go focus on your life, because there's so many men out there, and you're beautiful, and you will find somebody else. I promise you.
Yes. Yes. We have another comment from Williamson. He says, would y'all consider a cheater an abuser? I don't know if I would say. I do feel like some cheaters are abusers, but I don't feel like just because that person is cheating that they are abusive. I feel like sometimes that person can just be cheated a variety of reasons, because they probably feel like they don't have a lot of self-worth, or they're trying to be spiteful, get back at somebody, or whatever the case may be. What do you say, Sanita?
I think it can be a form of abuse. So if they've just done it once, I don't know, they were on a stag do, they slept with a stripper or something, or hooker, whatever you call it, and it was a one-off. I wouldn't call that abuse, like, personally, but what I would say is when they are serially cheating, it is a form of abuse. I personally think that. Yeah. So when it's serially cheating and they have this habit that they treat women, it comes back to the whole coercive control and male entitlement. So they are allowed to do this because they're men. Women are just there as objects. So when it comes to serially cheating, yeah, I do believe it then becomes a form of abuse.
Okay, I can see that perspective. I never really thought about it like that. But those are valid points. We have another comment from the Wacky World, said, this is why I remain single. I just think that there are too many crazy people out there. I got my own share of stories being with narcissistic females. But I know that you want a companion someday, but there are a lot of crazy people out there, and it kind of makes you lose hope in love and relationships. So I get that too.
No, don't lose hope. So, law of attraction. I don't know if you believe in the law of attraction or read the book The Secret, but ask the universe for what you want. Trust me, it works. It works. So ask the universe for what you want. Make a list of everything you want.
Yeah.
It will come to you. It's happened to me several times. Not abusive men, just in other things in life. So ask the universe for what you want, and it will come to you. I promise you. Ask, but you have to believe, and you have to visualize, and you have to go through those steps and feel it like it's yours. And you go through those steps, it will come to you.
Yes.
It will come to you. So you make a list, be very detailed what you want, So rather than focus and say, I don't want abuse. No. Just focus on what you want. I want a calming, I want a gentle, I want a honest, I want to, domesticate, whatever it is that you want. Make a list of what you want and focus on that.
Yeah, I agree with that manifestation. I believe in that a lot. Thoughts become our words become our actions, and that's how that quote goes. But I do believe that it starts in your head. You got to know what you want. You got to believe in it. You got to speak in it, act on it, and the universe will bring it right to your doorstep. So that's why I always say, be careful what you ask for, because you're going to get it one way or another. That may not be what you want at the end of the day. So definitely be careful. Okay, yeah, definitely. I want to get into the comments again. Eki says, "Oh, I definitely haven't gone back. LOL. It's been years. Was just asking your thoughts. I agree 100%. Thank you so much for the love. Thank you for your support, love, and watching. The wacky word of OTV says interesting. Yes, indeed. I had someone made a donation a while back, and I just wanted to give a shout out to her. I forgot her name, but I just wanted to thank her for giving a donation. She donated while we were live on air. I believe it was like 2 or 3 episodes ago. So yeah, shout out to you for doing that. I appreciate it. So Sanita, before we end, I want you to talk about you. We're referring to your book. I don't know if your book is already on the market. Can you tell us the name of your book, how people can find it, if it's published already?
Okay, so my book is still in draft format, but it's going to be incredible because I'm working with neuroscientists, psychologists, like just a breadth of information, just a wealth of information from so many different backgrounds. And just to kind of give you just a top line on the book, I can't give you the title because I haven't told anybody yet. So you're going to have to, when it's released, you'll be the first ones to know. But the kind of the gist of it is the psychology behind the abusive man, like all the definitions and examples of abuse. So people actually know what it is, because people always think in some cases it's the extremes, but it can be the subtleties as well. So it's how it all starts, the red flag behavior, psychology behind the abusive men. And then it goes on to the woman, and the focus is on the woman. So how did she end up in this situation? What's gone on? And so I cover some kind of deep psychology to really look at the woman at herself. But it's designed so anybody can pick the book up and read it. So you don't have to be a psychologist, you don't have to be a scientist, any of that stuff is designed so anybody can pick the book up and read it. And the idea is, from the second half of the book, is from the woman to go from down here, from not believing in herself, thinking she has no self-worth, back up to normal, because that's, that's great, but then beyond, literally beyond. So I talk about some goal setting, mindset, and literally brainwashing the woman into believing in herself again. So it's kind of 3 sections of the book, and I do say don't read this last section until you're ready to make that jump, until you're ready to make that change. So yes, it's very interesting. It's not out yet, it will be out next year. But in terms of the other projects that I've got going on, I work full-time in medical devices, but I also have a part-time business, online business. And the idea of the business is to generate funds, so money to pay for women's therapy, because I personally believe that therapy has helped, but not just any therapy, specialist therapists within this area, within the area of domestic violence. So you could go to any therapist, they might not be able to help, because if they don't understand what you're talking about, how are they going to help you? So my project is having a pool of therapists that are specialized in domestic violence, then having the women who have just come out of the relationships and getting them that therapy as soon as possible. Because in the UK, and I'm sure globally, there's not enough resource for that. So that is what I'm working on, and having this online business to raise the funds to pay for this therapy. And the link and everything is all on my bio. So I have a YouTube channel. I do live Instagrams, all of that stuff as well. And it's all, you can find everything on my Instagram, which is Connecting Women Together with the number 2. So Connecting Women Together, there it is, on Instagram. And then in my bio, you'll find the link to my YouTube, to my online business, to everything about me. And I'll be happy to speak to you on a personal level. So just send me a DM. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. Be on the lookout next year. Hopefully we can have you back during that time when your book is about to be released, so you can, let everybody know how to find that. I want to get into the last question. By the wacky world, do any of you believe that it's abusive for a man to desire a woman who submits to him? For me, I don't feel like I feel like it's about your intent behind it. And if you have everything do you possess everything that will make a woman, you know, willing to submit to you? I feel like some men just want a woman to submit because he feel like, I'm the man, that's what you're supposed to do, even if I'm not providing for you, you know, just for the simple fact that he's a man, she should submit. Yes, I feel like that's abusive and toxic. But you know, if you're everything that you're supposed to be, and she is everything, you know, that you want and that she is supposed to be, then you know, it is a place for that. It is a place for a woman to submit in a healthy way. I don't feel like it's abusive for a man to want that, as long as the factors are correct.
Yeah, I agree. I think as long as it's with healthy intent, and sometimes the woman wants to submit herself to the man in a healthy way. And as long as it's not forced, and as long as it's not because the man thinks it's his right over the woman. So as long as there's that equal rights there, and there's no unequal entitlement, then yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah. I agree with that. So again, Sanita, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for staying up late. I know that it's like a couple hours after midnight over there. I really appreciate us connecting. It's nice to see you virtually. It's nice to hear your story, your input. I really appreciate you for your time. I can't wait to have you back on the show. And I want to let the viewers know that I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We go live every Wednesday. Yeah, you can find us on YouTube, The Ranters Union, Facebook, Silence Kills, Instagram, Silence Kills. I want you to reach out to me if you want to be on our show. If you want to, you know, share your story, just, yeah, hit me up. Follow Sanita. And good night, everyone. Happy holidays. Good night. Good night to everyone in the comments. Good night to y'all. Happy holidays. And I'll be seeing you soon.
Yes. Good night and happy holidays, everyone.
Yes.
What I don't understand about this society and this world is that we're almost punished. We're almost degraded and told that we're big-headed, or that we're arrogant, or that, you know, we're all these things because we love ourselves, or because we show the slightest bit of confidence. And I just don't get it. I just don't understand why society does this to us. It's almost like society wants us women to hate ourselves and to not believe in ourselves, and it just drives me mad, and I just don't get it. So my dream is for all women to love themselves, care for themselves, put themselves first, have that respect, just have that self-care. And I just don't understand why society just doesn't contribute to that, and why it's just constantly beating us down, telling us that we're not good enough, telling us that we haven't done this or we haven't done that, and that we need to be this perfect person. And what I just want to say is that if there is that negative influence in your life, whether it be negative people or a negative situation, that negative situation could be friends, family, a job, a partner. It could be literally anything. You can just walk away. You can walk away. Like, you don't have to put up with that negativity, and don't care what anybody else thinks. Like, I had to go through my divorce to realize that, not to care what anyone else thinks anymore, not to succumb to what people want, because people are not going to be happy regardless what you do. So you might as well just do what you want to do. You might as well just do what you want to do in life. Don't stop living your life because of other people. If it's a job, walk away, get yourself another job. Do something that you love, because when you love doing that thing, you will be way more passionate. You'll be able to put 10 times more energy into it. But just be your authentic self. Do something that you enjoy. If it's a partner that's giving you that constant negativity, and you feel like it's something that you can't deal with anymore, then of course do whatever you think is best in that situation. If walking away is one of the options, then of course let that be an option for you. because life is too short. We don't come to this planet with, with centuries and centuries of life. We only come to this planet with only decades of life. And life is too short. So whatever it is that's making you unhappy, walk away from the negativity, walk away from all of that, and just be your authentic self. So if you can honestly, truly be your authentic self around those people, around that situation, around that partner, then that is when you'll find your truest happiness and your energy levels returning. And I just want to say, when I was with my ex-partner, and obviously my ex-partner was abusive, I found my health deteriorating as well, just being around this constant negativity. And so what I want to say is, it doesn't just affect your mental being, your spiritual being, but it also affects your physical being as well. And for me, I had doctors that couldn't work out what was wrong with me, why my immune system was down. When I was eating healthily, I was exercising, I was doing all the right things, and they couldn't work it out. And then as soon as I left my ex-husband, my levels returned back to normal again. And they just couldn't work out what had happened, but I had worked it out. I knew what had happened. I was basically so stressed out under all this negativity and abuse that my body was taking the strain. My body knew before I knew I was being abused. And it wasn't until I walked away from the situation that my body just went back to normal and I was fine again. So what I want to share with you today is, walk away from any negativity or anything or anyone that doesn't make you feel like you are what you deserve, because you are amazing. You deserve everything on this planet. Women are the best creation of this world, because we can give life. And I just believe that we need to believe in ourselves. We need to do our daily affirmations. We need to be happy and focus on the positives and walk away from anything negative. Walk away from anything that's deteriorating our lives. So that's all I wanted to say today. If you have been affected by any form of abuse, then please do contact either somebody within your network that you are comfortable reaching out to and that you trust, or reach out to myself, or
This is Stargirl Part 2. Pain teaches us best because it forces us to take a look at ourselves. Traumatized, living in pure ignorance all our lives, until which we have no choice but to go inwards and deeply reflect. The universe will force this realization on us through external events. For some, this happens sooner than others. When I was attacked, it was only me and my psyche. I had to fight hard to get back to where I'm at. Being reborn, immediately being selected for the Olympics because of my powers, but I don't even know how to execute living in this lifestyle. People judge me for my strengths and my weaknesses. I got Bambi legs, fumbling like a newborn, but still having to perform. Imagine baby Hercules growing into herself, and you judging her for not being able to walk in a straight line. That could leave that little young Hercules feeling like, do I continue to harness my powers or do I stifle them for the sake of others? Do you understand what that is like? If so, how dare you insult me and not recognize the strength in talking to you right now? Thinking you know me, I can tell your estimations are off. So many things held me back. My drive is insane. My fight got me here. I'm welterweighting with the heavy hitters. If that doesn't scream victory, I don't know what is. If I was defeated, I would have perished at the crime scene along with the shattering of my reality. If I was defeated, I would still be on bed rest, needing morphine, oxycodone, and IVs 24/7. If I was defeated, I wouldn't have put in close to 17,000 hours of physical therapy and still going strong. I opened my eyes every day and was motivated and determined to beat all odds. People don't understand how much it takes to sustain and maintain. I could be dead, so I fought. Where does that put me? I was battling for my life. I battle with the most. Someone with non-surgical precision penetrated my body with non-surgical steel 12 times. Reg, being strong is my only option. If you know pain, why don't you know compassion? Many people think they have arrived at their destinations already. Wrong. The more I celebrate myself, the more I realize how silent I've always been when I shouldn't have been. People are putting me in learn to cope with your stuff because you're disturbing me boxes. Don't cry because then you're dwelling. Don't be too descriptive about how you feel because that's exaggerated. Don't be too silent because that's passive aggressive. Don't speak out because nobody want to hear that. The irony of it all is they have the same problems too, and it manifests almost the same way as mine does, except their advice is a little different. Yes, I have mood swings that frighten me. Yes, I have the anger that I'm sure you are underestimating. Yes, I cry when I get overwhelmed. Yes, I love and I love hard. Then love ain't no love at all. Yes, I feel everything deeply, but I'd rather feel than play numb. I gotta let my fire burn and say F who don't like it. I'm a happy girl, and the first thing I had to realize was that happiness is not linear. I will struggle sometimes, and that's okay. There will be parts of her that aren't solved, parts of her that require gentleness, parts of her that need to heal, parts of her that need to be reminded of who she is. Be patient with her. There will be parts of him that are fragile, parts of him that need to be caressed with care, parts of him that haven't even begun to heal. Be patient with him. I'm giving myself my all, my tears, putting my pain in pictures for you. This is what you really call a golden shower. I'm shining through my pain. My best friend calls me the sun. He tells me, yes, I have my cloudy days, even rainy ones, but you will always feel my warmth. I am the sun, but even lights are burnt by shining. I have the effects that I do on people because my power and strength don't fit into the realm of their tunnel vision. Some people don't deserve my expression of pain. If you're only looking at my expression and not what I represent, you don't know me. I'm weak because I trust you enough to be vulnerable with you. To judge my tears or attitude or moodiness only without taking into consideration me or the battlefield I'm on is an insult. Me expressing my feelings to you is a privilege. I'm not ashamed in how unpretty my healing and journey is. We still call a rose beautiful with the consciousness of its thorns. I can't stifle my crown for anyone who refuses to accept that a rose is at its healthiest surrounded by thorns to protect her halo. You have to know yourself enough to recognize what to reject. Not everyone is for you. You have to guard your God level energy. I am the woman Hercules, your human star girl. Thank you.